And good morning, happy Sunday or Saturday evening, whatever it is in your part of the world. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Whadjuk Noongar peoples. I pay my respects to the elders past and present, and to Aboriginal elders and peoples from other communities who may be taking part in this live stream today. So, good morning to Imogen, Austin, Chip, DIY, Gavin, Gerald, tourists here. Who else do we have? Pete, Stephen. Yes, a wild John appears. Wild, very wild. Steve. Yes, actually just before the live stream, I just stuck a rubber band around Steve's hard hat because I'm so sick of his hard hat falling off. Steve is here. He is hard hat enabled, but I do not have the mount on the chair. That's such a long-standing thing. I've got to do something about that. I got him up there pretty quickly just with the skewer very early on. Delane, Russell, thanks for coming along. Now, today I didn't do the IoT access point thumbnail for the stream because I wasn't really sure what to do. I thought this might end up just being a random chat sort of session. Oh, Tony's here and Sarah is here. Illuminator. Yes, everybody say good morning. Chris is here. Dave Paul Jones is here. DIY. Oh no, DIY says I got COVID. That sucks. Has it been bad or just a mild case so far? Morning, Stephen. Thanks for coming along. So the IoT access point project has been dragging on. I know there was a little bit of chat in Discord. I'm just going to drag it across, pull it back in front of me. Where are we? So ePods work. I got the S in the wrong place. ePod works net. Suggested maybe changing from the second SPI port. So we're currently using SPI1 with the WIZnet Ethernet chip. Changing it to SPI0, which is the primary SPI port, just to see if it makes any difference with the throughput, because we're getting such poor performance. So the very quick wrap up for those who don't remember where we got to, we have a fully working IoT access point. We've got Wi-Fi, we've got hardwired Ethernet on the Raspberry Pi 02, and we've got personal pre-shared keys so that you can use WPA2 and still issue a different password to every device on your Wi-Fi network instead of having to have a shared network-wide passphrase, PSK, which is the typical thing for Wi-Fi. So we actually have it functional. The problem is the throughput on that particular arrangement is pretty poor. I can't remember what it was, but it was in the order of a few megabits per second that we were passing through from the Wi-Fi side to the Ethernet side, and the bottleneck seems to be the Ethernet based on the WIZnet chipset. So that then puts us in a position where we have to decide on the direction of the project. Are we going to is it good enough? I suppose for the use cases that people have, a few megabits a second is okay if all you're talking about is IoT devices. You want to put some sign-offs and various other things out there around your house and have them on their own dedicated Wi-Fi network, each with their own password, and keep them totally separated to the normal Wi-Fi network. But I'm not really satisfied with that. What I would really like is enough throughput on these access points that we can use them as a general access point for the entire house or office or whatever it is you want to do. And you don't have to run two totally separate sets of hardware. I'd like to be able to put these APs in and run personal pre-shared keys for IoT devices, but also run phones and laptops and whatever through it with enough throughput that it is practical. I mean, we're not going to get the sort of crazy throughput you can get on higher end or more modern IoT, not IoT, just Wi-Fi access points, and that's not entirely the goal, certainly not at this stage. But I would like it to have enough throughput that you could connect your laptop to the network and stream stuff off YouTube or whatever, and have it all work nicely. And at the rate that we're getting through it at the moment, a few megabits a second, it's not so good. I don't necessarily want hundreds of megabits per second, but more in the range of like 50 would be good. That would be very nice. And so we're kind of an order of magnitude off in terms of the throughput that we're getting on Ethernet. What can we do about that? We can maybe move away from using a Pi 0 and maybe switch to a CM4. So on a previous stream, we looked at a bunch of options. The compute module for footprint is also used by a number of other manufacturers to make compatible modules that will fit on the same footprint with the same connector, but with a variety of different processor options. And there are some that are, like the CM4 is unobtainium right now. Has been for a while, probably will continue to be for a while. I just realized that I've got my the chat window blocked, so I haven't even been able to see it. And I have been paying zero attention, as usual. Where was I? I broke my own train of thought. Yeah, so the CM4 is unobtainium, but there are, I think we came up with 3, maybe 4 good alternatives based on different chipsets that could potentially have very good performance and that are actually obtainable. You can buy them at reasonable prices. So if I redesign the carrier PCB to move away from the Pi 0 2 and put a CM4 footprint on there instead, maybe we can use one of these third-party non-Raspberry Pi Foundation boards that go onto the CM4 footprint. And the nice thing about that is that because that same footprint is used by a variety of boards, we can actually test a few options, and it gives more future-proofing, I suppose. Well, supply chain proofing. If there is a problem with one of the suppliers, you just can't get them anymore, then yeah, we can switch to something else. Now, I just remembered, yeah, my memory stretching back a whole 9 minutes, 10 minutes to just before this started. Let's see. Oh, hang on. Going back. Okay, jumping around topics here. DIY said, I got COVID, yay, and mild ever since, still here so far. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear. DIY that you might have COVID, but it's mild so far. Yeah. Oh, and Peter said, Discord, that reminds me, I got new memes to share. I've got so many. I've been collecting them for a while, so I got a backlog of memes, and I dumped them into a group chat. Some last night, some this morning. Not anything related to this, it was a different group chat. Peter, me actually falls out of bed. Tassie Bob is here, Cheetah Kid. Hey. Oh, and I don't think I said hi to Sion earlier either, who popped into the chat early on. Yeah, Gavin said... okay, so some ideas coming through here in the chat. Yeah, Peter says, this is very relevant. Peter says, I keep coming back to camera-based IoT devices needing some bandwidth. Yes, that is actually a really valid point. That is a very good motivating factor to make sure that whatever we build here has enough bandwidth that we can stream video through it. Because we don't necessarily just want things like temperature sensors that are going to be sending an MQTT message every 5 minutes. It's also going to be things like cameras or devices with cameras in them, and we might want to stream some video. Not necessarily really high quality video. It might be low frame rate, it might be fairly small resolution, but we do still want to do that sort of thing from IoT devices. So oh yeah, my friend Andy is he's always working on interesting stuff, but I was over at his place a couple of days ago, and he's working with a whole bunch of different cameras at the moment, and doing some machine learning based on the streams from the cameras that he's got around the place, including up on his roof looking out towards the city, and different places around the house, in the garage, just around. He wants to do things like have the system know where his dog is in the house, so that when he's not there he can see, oh yeah, the dog is in that particular location or whatever. And that sort of thing means that he's streaming video from a bunch of cameras, including Raspberry Pis with the Pi camera attached to them. And that sort of device can be really useful in an IoT sort of application. So having enough throughput to do video I think it is important. It's not really what I had in mind when I started this project, but I think it's becoming more and more important, and Peter is spot on about that. So Stephen said you can use pogo pins to connect power and USB to use a USB 2.0 Ethernet chip. That is true. The pins that we need for doing that are not on the expansion header of the Pi, but as Stephen said, you can pick those signals up from other places by having I'm going to do lots of hand waving here. All right. Is that thing? No, wrong camera. There, that's what I wanted. I'm going to get back to this. This is something to show you later, but what you could do, for example, is have the board mounted here, pogo pins underneath it, sticking up and contacting the correct locations on whatever you've got on here. Now, this is not a Pi 0, obviously. This is a Rock Pi S, but that doesn't matter. The point is you can make connections to places on the board using pogo pins, even if those connections are not exposed on headers specifically. Cheetah Kid asked, CM4, one from the 3D printer. They might be used in a 3D printer. Seems pretty likely. But what I mean by CM4 is Compute Module 4, which is a Raspberry Pi in a form factor that is a small board with a fairly fine pitch connector along one edge, so that you can use it as a module plugging onto a carrier board. Yeah, and Gavin says, I guess the hardware depends on what will become easily obtainable in the near future. That is the never-ending problem. Yeah, Mitchell said, if you're wanting it to be a general access point, then you should target 100 megabits a second, since that is what other cheap APs can push, approximately 90 megabits per second. But if you're looking for 50-ish, then it's more suited for IoT. And DIY says, hey John, the WizNet will be the bottleneck. You won't be able to get anything faster out of it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the conclusion that we're coming to. With the WizNet chip hanging on SPI, we're pretty much cranking along at the limits of the hardware at this point. We're not going to get more through it. So that's one of the reasons that I'm interested in playing around with what I just showed you on the bench then, which is the Rock Pi S on the carrier board. We will get back to that. Mitchell says, I think it's better to start with targeting 10 to 50 megabits per second, as that would cover 90% of IoT devices at least. And then once we can upgrade to speed. Yeah, we've got to get, we have to get it working. Well, the nice thing now, I'm actually feeling much better about this project now. You know how projects go through stages where it's idea and you prototype it, you do like a rough thing to get things together, and then you get it into a shape where everything is working end to end. It's not necessarily performing the way you'd want it to, but you have a solution that works 100% beginning to end. And we're now at that point, which is cool. It's going beyond the can we make it work at all stage and moving into the let's make it work better stage and hit the targets in terms of performance and things. Yeah, DIY said most IoT devices won't hit nowhere near 50 megabytes per second or megabits per second. They won't, that's right. But there are some that, things like an ESP32 cam streaming video, even at a few frames a second, that could be a really useful little device. And yeah, Imogen just said, show us your tat. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll just try to catch up on a few of the other comments first. Philip, thanks for coming along. Mitchell says, then you're going to need your minimum 100 megabits per second. Hey, 2.4 gigahertz isn't even ideal, so maybe 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, 5 for video and 2.4 for data maybe. Yeah, this is getting into territory that is a little bit beyond the scope of what I'm trying to do here. You are right. In an ideal world, we would support 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. But what really prompted this whole thing was the problem of having many Tasmota-based devices, and they typically only support 2.4 gigahertz anyway. So my goal had always been to make something that works at 2.4 gigahertz, and 5 is like that's a couple of generations down the track. Ultimately, it would be really, really cool to have something that is like a 100% open source equivalent to the Unify platform. So Unify access points with decent performance and nice enclosures, but where the hardware is open, the firmware is open, the control system, like the admin side of it, is all open. Yeah, that would be really, really nice. That's ultimately what I would like, but that's like a stretch dream goal. Aha, DIY. US $1.99 for the cheapest cup of coffee. Thanks for the super chat. So where are we? Oh, good question. Gavin asked, what is the bandwidth requirements for a camera these days based upon H.264, H.265? I actually don't know. That would be interesting to know. Doing something like, and the thing is that with the really low power devices, things like an ESP32 cam, the microcontroller, so it's an ESP32 that's doing all the video processing. You really don't have a whole lot of hardware to do video compression, and it's a while since I played with those little cameras. I don't even recall what they output on their stream. It's probably something really basic like motion JPEG. I don't know what sort of encapsulation it uses or anything. I just do not remember. Mitchell says, remember that it's not 50 megabits per second per device, it's 50 megabits per second backhaul that you have to think of. 50 times 1 megabit per second is 50 megabits per second. Yeah. Austin says, have a feeling of chasing video, then we're going to have to move away from SPI Ethernet. Yeah. Okay. Coral USB Oh. Johan said, have you tried Coral USB AI Accelerator? I don't know if I've heard of that. I've heard of I've seen a few AI accelerators that go on USB. I don't know if I've heard of the Coral one in particular. Yeah, Austin says, starting a large project right now. Which, yes, reminds me, right before... okay, I'm going to pull up What have I got here? Do 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 do. There. Yes. So PoE auto switch, production progress. Okay. Production is nil. It's getting close based on that little pie chart progress thing. Austin tweeted this 42 minutes ago, just awaiting completion of production to do what I hope is the final test of PoE auto switching. This is an important building block for this whole project as well. At the moment on my prototypes, I'm not doing source auto switching for PoE, I'm just using jumpers. So you have to manually plug jumpers in if you want to use certain types of PoE, which is not ideal. It'd be nice if you just plug anything into it and it just works. And Austin is working on that. Thanks, Austin. Hopefully this one works and we'll be able to incorporate that into the design. Mitchell asked a very interesting question here. This has come up a couple of times and I've kind of ignored it. Not really ignored, but I haven't ignored it as such. Anyway, what was the point? Mitchell's point was, I know it's great to build our own, but couldn't we just do custom firmware on an existing system like OpenWRT, etc.? Less work and more throughput. Just repackage accordingly. Yes, that is also a very valid approach. Now, probably the reason I haven't done that is in the early days, yeah, I really should have put more work into following that sort of approach. But in the early days, I had a look at what it would take to do personal pre-shared keys, and it looked like it was going to be a lot easier on a Linux-based system like a Debian, Raspbian, or Ubuntu type system than on OpenWRT. The thing is that I don't really have, I've used OpenWRT in the past, but I've used it to the extent that I have run the installer, logged into the configuration menu, changed some settings, and used it. I haven't looked under the hood at all. I don't have a clue how it works. And so I kind of just went with what I knew. Now, over the time I've been working on this project, I've had quite a few people comment on, I've had people comment on Twitter and Facebook and other things saying, just do it with OpenWRT, and maybe that would be better. So there are a couple of things that would need to be taken into consideration. The first is, is it possible to set up personal pre-shared keys on OpenWRT? And the related question is, does OpenWRT use host APD? I don't know. This shows how little I know about OpenWRT. Does it use host APD? Can the version of host APD on it be configured to do personal pre-shared keys? Yeah, this is working. This is something that needs investigation. So the other layer to that is configuration. And I also don't know how OpenWRT handles this, because part of my goal for this is not just to make a standalone device that you install and log into directly to configure. What I want to do is make a system, not a device. So once again, similar to the Unify range, I want to be able to have multiple access points managed from a single console, and the config from that console be pushed out. Things like access policies and users and all of those sorts of things. Configuring configuring VLANs and all that sort of stuff from one interface rather than from every device. And I know you can do that with OpenWRT by logging into the device. Does OpenWRT provide an API or some way of doing that behind the scenes, like through SSH and modifying config files? I mean, that's one way to do it. If it does, that would be cool. Chris said, are we talking about burst or sustained speed? Hadn't really thought about it. I suppose for video, yeah, it's going to be multiple client devices, so kind of choppy. I think it'd be a very different use case to having something like a laptop that is sucking down high bandwidth video on a single continuous stream. It'd be more like lots of little devices, and some of them might be streaming video, but most of them would be just sending MQTT messages and not a whole lot out. Agim said, notice an RFID tattoo. Yes, okay. And Imogen mentioned that earlier too. Oh, Austin pointed out. Hang on. The chat had stopped scrolling because I'd moved it, and there is way more. All right, I'll show this now because otherwise I am going to keep forgetting about it. I'm going to keep being reminded. So there you go. You've seen it now. No. Hang on. Let's get this overhead camera working. Which camera? That camera. Yes, there it is. You can see the hair's got to grow back still. I can't really rotate my arm in that direction very well. So the RFID chip is right there. It is just under the symbol. And so, as I've been talking about on Discord, that is my name phonetically transliterated into Old Norse using the older Futhark alphabet, I suppose you could say. And that symbol is a modern symbol, but it's based on descriptions in old poems describing the connection between all things, which is kind of appropriate for an RFID type thing. Where are we? Back to the chat. Mitchell said, Austin, don't scare him. Yeah, talking about 6 gigahertz. Yeah, 6 gigahertz. Now, it would be... Alright, I think it is worth a little research project to try running OpenWRT. It's the sort of thing that I could probably answer these questions by just sitting here and doing some searches and looking at some config files. Answering the question of whether OpenWRT can support personal pre-shared keys. I've got, in fact, I think I have one up here. Do I? Not there. It's probably out in the factory in a box on one of the storage racks. I do have OpenWRT devices from years and years ago, old ones. So what I would want is an OpenWRT device that ideally supports power over Ethernet. That's one of the things that makes it a little bit trickier. Anyway, how do I classify this? Okay, I classify it as worthy of investigation, but it is a pretty big rabbit hole to dive into, and I'm not going to right now. Certainly not on this live stream. Maybe later I will do a bit of searching, find some suitable OpenWRT device, do some testing. Yeah. Armada system I use. Oh. Austin said, I noticed tonight a category added to the UI management software for the TP-Link Armada system I use. Yes. Gavin asked, Stepping aside from the hardware design and limitations, do you have any ideas about how to easily manage the devices attached so that visitors, members, mates' devices can be easily managed? Okay, so this is really coming into a UI issue, which is a huge thing and probably beyond my brain space right now. At least if I'm going to continue making any progress on the basic hardware and getting the throughput working. What I had thought about, I'm just going to bring up something to show you. Maybe if I can get it working, if I can log in. Okay. Oh damn, I've got to look up my password. Alright, I will do that while nobody can see what's going on, and then I will switch to that screen in just a moment. Unify. I'm looking for my Unify password. Got a GPG decrypt, the thing with the thing, and then put the thing in the thing. Okay. Was I successful? Yes, I have logged in. Alright. Oh, we've got a broken image there. That's kind of annoying. Doesn't matter though. Okay, so this is the management console for the Unify network here in the lab. It's you can see there's a broken image on the left there. That is the gateway, which is the Unify Security Gateway Pro 4 that Andrew very, very graciously has lent me for an indeterminate period of time. And what do we have? Topology, that's not going to show us anything very much. Unify devices. This is what I currently have connected in here. Oh look, the USG Pro needs a firmware update. So this is the sort of interface that I would envisage for managing the individual access points. So these are the devices being managed from this console. And in this case you can see switch desk 1, that's the location, and it's a USW Flex Mini. I've got 2 switches under the desk here. You can see firmware is up to date, firmware version that's installed, various stats like memory, CPU. It's not reporting CPU and load. I wonder why not. Maybe those particular models just don't do it. Shows how many clients are connected and throughput, different things, and you can click to update. But if you select one of them, you can then configure it. Now this user interface is not necessarily ideal. I'm just going to grab this and drag it across here. It's not necessarily ideal, but this is the general concept. So we're now looking at the configuration for that particular Ethernet switch. You can see the model, MAC address, general details about it. You can see that it's got the laser printer plugged into it and uplink. We can see the port, power, packets, downlinks, the what else is connected to it, some stats. This particular switch really isn't doing very much, as you can see. We can see ports on the switch, and we can see the speed they're connected at. And you can also, if this is a PoE switch, with PoE switches you can also see which devices are drawing power, and we can give it a name, LED network, configuration. We can configure things directly, but most of the time what you do is just the basic configuration on the individual devices, because you don't want to go into each device to configure. So in the case of the this access point, for example, the UAP AC Pro, you can see here devices that are connected to it, and just like before, we can see its uplink. We can see it's connected at gigabit rate. It's not using any power because it's not running off PoE. Insights, yeah, different channels. I haven't done a channel scan, so it's not showing any information there at the moment. Settings, you can see use global AP settings. It's taking its settings from the policy set for the site, rather than configuring directly within here. Because what you can do in, where are we? If we go into settings, networks, you can see I've only got the default network at the moment. There were some other VLANs here, some other networks, actually different subnets that have been disabled. So they were being used by VLANs, but I've got those disabled at the moment. And Wi-Fi, see here, we've got global AP settings. So this is where stuff gets interesting in relation to this project. You can set things like channel usage, so the width, power, you can set powered levels and meshing and just general stuff. So configuration that you would normally do within the configuration of an AP, you do here at the site level as a policy. And then those settings, if I change these settings here, those settings then propagate out to the access points and they follow that policy. And you can see here that I've got a wireless network, and the network is just called Superhouse. I've only got one network created here at the moment. Now I'm going to drag this down off the screen where you can't see it, because I'm going to click on it, and I just want to make sure it's not going to reveal anything that I do not want revealed. I'm pretty sure it won't. Everything is yes, there is a password thing there, like a PSK field, but it is blanked out, so you can't see it. So in here, what we can do is define the Wi-Fi network. So the network's SSID is Superhouse in this case, and there is a password or PSK for the network. So all devices have that same password, and then you can specify what network, and you can do groups. There are a lot of configuration options here. Which bands will be used, and types of network, whether you're doing proxy ARP, etc. And then if I change this, and Wi-Fi scheduler, you can do things like set the schedule for when Wi-Fi is going to be available. And by doing this in this centralized user interface, you can then save these policies, and as I said before, the policies are applied to all the devices in the network. And this is what I want to happen. But the difference is, instead of just having this password for the network, we have the SSID and then a single password. You could have a default password as a fallback, I suppose. But what I would want to do is have a section for adding devices. And there would need to be some kind of a commissioning or onboarding process. So if you added, say, a Tasmoda-based device, and you want to onboard it onto your network, you need to generate a key for it, and then configure that in the Tasmoda device. And you also need to create a device profile in here. So in this case, we've got Unify devices, which is the interface that I showed you before, and we've got client devices, which is all the things connected to the network. And there would probably need to be some kind of a list similar to this, where you can specify this is the device, this is the SSID, and that it is allowed to connect to, and this is the password that it uses. And then that configuration would need to go out to, because we're probably not going to be using, I've gone blank on it. What is that centralized user management thing? So long since I've used that. I don't remember. Someone will be saying it in the chat, I'm sure. Yeah, like a directory service where you manage all of your user profiles in a central location, and then the access points do a remote lookup. They do a lookup against the directory service to authenticate. Yeah. Where are we? Where are we? Okay, back into the chat. I'm just catching up on the chat. Chris said, I've seen cameras with variable bitrate take less than 2 meg on 4K. Granted, burst is way higher and probably outside the budget. H.264 Plus is quite effective. Okay. Yeah, the interesting thing, and this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but the way compression works on video, if you have a scene that is not changing very much, typically it will be using far less bandwidth than a scene that changes frequently. So if you've got a camera that is just doing something like monitoring a room, and there might be something that moves in it occasionally, it will be pushing less down the wire or over the airwaves than a video feed that might be something like a movie where scenes are changing constantly and cameras are cutting, like it's cutting between different views, different cameras, in which case the compression can't take advantage of the fact that there are parts of the scene that don't change. And the bandwidth throughput is much more bursty. Oh, where are we? So Austin said, okay, I think this is referring back to what I was saying about the management interface. Austin said, replying to Gavin, the plan is to make it OXRS compatible and make it easier to do just that. Yeah, yes, that's right. Exactly. So the this interface that I'm showing here, this is kind of what my dream would be for an OXRS management interface. A single centralized interface with a dashboard and the ability to configure devices. And in the devices you would have things like light switch controllers and your Tasmoda devices, whatever you've got, like all of the different OXRS stuff configured through here, and define policies and push them out. That is ultimately where I would like this to go. But all of my focus, I haven't even looked at the software side of stuff for so long. I know there's been an enormous amount of work that has gone into that. And the thing that I really want to play with is the ESP32 touchscreen stuff, where Austin has done the PoE board for that. I've done a CAN board for that with motor drivers on it. And Moin has done firmware for the touchscreen interface. So you can do like a configurable dashboard with different buttons and status displays and things. I have not actually installed Moin's firmware. I've got the hardware, I've got the boards sitting right here, and something that I would really love to do is put Moin's dashboard onto that, because all of that is part of integrating with the OXRS ecosystem. In fact, where I've got my just over, you can't see it, but on the wall between the glass wall here and my little mini kitchen, I've got a light switch, one of the illuminated ones with a couple of buttons on it that controls the lights here in the lab, and it's got the Ethernet cable going through to it, which is currently plugged into a light switch controller in the rack. But what I could do is just patch that through instead to Ethernet and put one of those ESP32 touchscreens on it. So my plan is to put one of those touch panels on the wall over there. I think that would be really cool. All right, more talk about video throughput. Yes, that's the thing, is that this is such a rabbit hole. I'm going to have to kind of move off the video throughput thing, because it is important and it's interesting, but it's talking about it is stopping me from playing with hardware, and I want to play with hardware right now. So, great automation forum that specializes in non-cloud automation. So John Jacob Asked, hi, can someone point me to a great automation forum that specializes in non-cloud automation? Yeah, well, that's kind of what we're doing. Oh, Gerald. Gerald said, my internet has been acting up all day. This stream is having trouble. I may have to say goodnight early. I hope it's not my end again. My internet here at the lab has been terrible the last couple of live streams. I've had so much trouble with it. Yeah, Tassie Bob said, I think I saw the other day that MikroTik has the ability to do per Mac PSK. Didn't try it, but looked like it probably could. MikroTik is just an embedded Linux box. Yeah, exactly. So there are existing systems that do this. This is not new and novel. There's a system called Hive, I think it is. Now this is it's one of those things where I first thought of this, and because I was thinking about the whole problem of how do you give devices that can't do enterprise authentication their own unique pass phrases, and thought, hey, what I could do is filter based on the MAC address and etc. And I thought, this is great, I've come up with something new, and then discovered that there are entire companies that are built around that. Hive, I may be misremembering the name. Hive Hub, no, Hive Mesh. It may not be Hive. There is some other company that is really big in universities in particular, because of course the issue with universities is you've got the situation where you have a very large number of end users. So universities are really serious networking challenges. They've got thousands or tens of thousands of people on the same network, with some devices that are hardwired, a lot of devices that are wireless. Basically everyone is BYO device. So you can't say, for example, these are all a company issued laptops and this is a company issued phone, and you're not allowed to use anything else. People use all sorts of crazy things. And in residential situations, people want to use automation devices, like they want to put in smart power plugs and all that sort of stuff, which typically does 2.4 gigahertz only. It won't do enterprise authentication. So there are all of these challenges on a campus network that really push networking to the extreme. And yeah, there are companies that specialize in that. So I know MikroTik does personal pre-shared keys, and this other company, which I can't even remember, does it as well. Radius, yes, that's right. Radius is the acronym I was trying to remember earlier. Remote Authentication Dial-In User Service, I think it stands for. Oh, Outside the Box is here. Hang on, Chip, you were here earlier, weren't you? MIC ISP, so everywhere, just not Wi-Fi. So yes, okay. Johan says, I use OpenWRT on Pi. Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm pausing because I am just scrolling back through chat. I've missed so much. So there's been the talk about OpenWRT. Yeah, Johan says, I use OpenWRT with VPN on the router equals standard these days. Yeah, Tassie Bob said the TICs do, as in MikroTiks do the central management as well. I've got 4 APs here, all controlled from my main router. Nice. Yeah, there are several companies like Unify, MikroTik, and obviously Cisco and that sort of level of equipment as well does the whole centralized management thing, which you absolutely have to do. By the time you get to anything that's more than a basic home installation, in a small office, you can get away with it without having centralized management. Say you've got, I don't know, I'm just going to make it up, like a little accounting firm, and you've got a dozen people working there, and you've got, say, 2 access points, and you've got a file server and your broadband connection, firewall. That sort of installation you can manage manually. You can log into the devices and configure them, add users, that sort of stuff. But once you get beyond that, you really need some kind of a centralized management console, and all of the serious gear makers do offer that. And when you get into multi-site stuff, yes, then you definitely need a centralized management console. Yes, where? Still scrolling. I am so far behind. I am so far behind on the chat. Okay, good night DIY. I just saw DIY signing off, but that was a while ago, so I probably missed you. Sorry. Oh, Andrew says hi. Yes. G'day to Andrew. Thank you, Andrew, for use of your Unify gear, which I've just been showing here. I don't know whether you were here earlier in the chat, but yes, I did a shout out to you. Yeah, Aruba. Yes, Aruba also do centralized network management. Set power to 11. Yeah, Sarah pointed out my password is ... Radius, LDAP, Radius backed into LDAP, or just Radius by itself. Radius, yes. First, okay, I think I'm gonna, sorry to do this. I am jumping towards the end of the chat because I'm just so far behind that working through it, I'm never going to catch up. I am declaring chat bankruptcy. Okay. Now, let's getting down towards the end. Oh, okay. Tassie Bob said, this is getting slightly off topic, but it's interesting. That UT61E thing that I got from you the other day might have started a thing. Now I've got a dozen D1 minis here to do things with. Yep. D1 minis are like, they're such a fun little building block. I have a whole box full of them. I think I ordered them last time I ordered D1 minis, I think I might have ordered 50. It's I just go through them. Yeah, they run Tasmoda or your own firmware or whatever. So many things that you can do with them. They're a good little building block to have around. Austin says, I've been happy with the TP-Link Omada system for the non-profit I help. Okay, so Omada, I'm not familiar with it. Like I have a vague idea of what it is. And of course I know of TP-Link, you know, sort of consumerish grade hardware, routing hardware. Yes. So Mitchell suggests OpenWRT plus TR069 all sorted. So management says all good for custom, add in OXRS and DumDum, central, full management, we were all covered. What is the TR06, is it a 069 or an 069? I don't know, so I'm going to copy and paste that, and broadband for application layer for remote management. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not a specific product or device. It is a management protocol. So OpenWRT TR069 is a protocol for managing devices. Yes. Add in with OXRS. So if we had TR069 support in the OXRS management console, we could then configure devices that support that protocol. That is an interesting thing. Thank you, Mitchell. Yeah. Yes. Oh, and Austin said, that reminds me, I need to finish converting the UT61E to OXRS. Yeah. Just back here, a little while ago, ages and ages ago, I bought one of these and I need to stick this on my bench. These are really nice. It's a bench type multimeter rather than, so it's mains powered. It's a bench multimeter with USB on it, and it spits out data. So one thing I've been thinking about doing is a little project to make a converter, just a software thing, plug USB into the computer, and then it could just be something like a bit of Python that reads the data coming from this and pushes it to MQTT in the same format as the UT61E interface, so that what you can do is have the output from this displayed in the same, using all of the same cool stuff that's been done for the UT61E interface. Yeah, so AP4, where is it? It's 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, hang on. I've got to mute for a second because I need a drink. Ah, that's better. Much better. Ooh. Mitchell says TR069 has MQT 0 USP 369, whatever that stands for, has MQTT and WebSockets. I've built a TR069 platform already, so we're covered. Mitchell, it sounds like you have all of the answers. Yeah, cool. Now, let's get back to the hardware side of things just for a moment. The reason I had this in my backpack is that I took it home because I was going to measure it and 3D model a mount for this, so like a 3D printed bezel that this clips into, that would then go into a laser cut frame and integrate this on my workbench with power supplies and the other stuff. Anyway, oh, I have no idea of the answer to this. Martin asked, isn't TR069 mainly only useful for broadband device management? Does it have capability to extend to full AP management? That's a good question. I don't have the faintest idea. I didn't even know of TR069 until now. I might have come across it in the past, one of those things where I probably read about it or seen it and then it's gone out of my mind because it's not something that I've used. So that's a very good question, Martin. Can it do arbitrary things? Can the protocol, is the protocol flexible enough that we could do things like, oh okay, so Mitchell says it can do anything really, it's just XML config. Nice. So that means that it could be extended by defining our own config parameters arbitrarily for the devices that we want to configure and then send that config to them. I suppose that's a smart way of doing it. So instead of having a hard-coded management protocol that has a specified number of fields and you have to send those fields, then make it freeform XML based. Okay. Yeah, okay, so as Mitchell said, so you just define specific device specific entries. Cool, cool. Now, back to this for a moment. This is was it the first, no, well, it was the first custom carrier board that I did for this project. This was after I had done the version that was just a Raspberry Pi 3 and proved that PPSK could be made to work at all. I then decided to go for this, and instead of putting a Raspberry Pi on here, I decided to go for a Rock Pi S. And these little Rock Pis are kind of cool. I quite like them. But in the past, I think a few live streams ago, I did it like a really hand-wavy explanation of how I had mounted this, but I didn't really show it to you. So somewhere here I got out a cable and plug this in here. This is a fairly thick and not very flexible cable, so it's not a great example. but it will give you the general idea. So the idea is that it goes like this, and there is enough clearance in the round enclosure, in the access point enclosure, that this cable can pass, except that it goes around that side more, like it sits there somewhere. That the cable can sit inside the enclosure because the round enclosure has a gap down the side here. So we've got, coming at it from the signal path from the other end, we've got the externally exposed Ethernet socket here. So this is what you plug into your backhaul connection to your switch. And the signal on that passes through the PCB. If we look at it from the other side, it goes along the PCB from there and it comes to this socket. So this is just a pass through. It goes in, the connection comes in here, through there, along this cable, and plugs into there. So effectively plugging into there is the same as plugging into there. But what it does is move it mechanically into a position where it's exposed on the enclosure in a nice location, and it aligns with the hole on the enclosure. But it also has another advantage. What it means is that I've been able to tap off the PoE connections, and you can see just over here there are diodes on here. This is the rectification coming from the PoE, and that then feeds off. There's no module in there, but this is where a PoE regulator module would go, and it's got the jumpers on here for the DIY PoE. So if we put the jumpers on and then we fed 12 volts down the wire here, coming into here, it would be tapped off on the appropriate pins, and it's got the diodes for protection. It then passes around and it goes to this regulator. So this is an automotive grade linear regulator. It's not switch mode on this version. We went to switch mode later, and that then gives us 5 volts out, which gets fed to the Rock Pi S. So the Rock Pi S can then be powered off PoE. And there is also the DC jack if you just want to power it that way. There is the mode button or whatever button that I've included for doing things like putting it into pairing mode or factory reset or whatever. Haven't really decided what to do with that yet, but we need some kind of a button for different things. And this is it. So where it got to with this was, oh, and you can see that I screwed up some connections, got some little patch wires on there. So yeah, this was my first attempt at making like dedicated hardware for the IoT access point. And this is a really nasty, hacky workaround. It's not totally unacceptable, like it does solve the problem, but the idea of having a patch lead internal to a device like this is just ugh. And that was because I couldn't get to the Ethernet coming off the pins here to do it directly. It's only exposed on this socket. And you can see that I've got a cutout here because we have to allow for clearance of those connectors. So I wouldn't be totally against going back to this sort of solution, but it's not ideal. But then the real killer with this was that I ran into some software problems and got kind of stuck. So the thing is, this is like 1.5 years ago that I was working on this, and I am seriously testing my memory about what's going on. I have a vague recollection that this is running Debian, and you can see that it's got a micro SD card on here. I don't think it is actually booting from the micro SD card, because the Rock Pi S comes with, there are a few different versions of it, so I've got a few here. There's a, this is a PoE shield, I believe, or is it just a power supply shield? I can't remember. Yeah. Hang on, if this is PoE, how does it get the connections off that? Oh, I see, it's getting it off that. Alright. Although, yeah, okay. I'm not going to follow that train of thought. There are some things that we could look at there. So, oh, there's another one of those. What's this? Is this another Rock Pi? Well, this one hasn't even been opened. So these two are still brand new sealed RockPi S's. This one has been opened, but it has an eMMC memory chip on it. So that's the Rock chip SoC, and it's got an external one of these. Don't know which one. I think it's this one. Is the external memory chip. So what you can do is load the operating system onto this and then run it without using the SD card. So I can't remember what was going on with this. I think this one was running Debian, but that is a stretch of my memory. I suppose what we could do, in fact, while I'm talking about stuff, let's plug this in and just see what happens. I've got, what have I got? I've got Ethernet here, one of those Unify switches, one of Andrew's Ethernet switches, and if we power this up, we'll see if it comes up on the network. It's a kind of a, I'll just plug in that, so put in my bench supply. What have I got it set to? 12 volts, 3 amps, that's heaps. All right, I'm just going to turn on the power supply. Let's see if any smoke comes out. No smoke, but we've got an LED, that's a good sign. So we've got a device. Oh look, we've got some activity on here. It's a bit hard to see on camera, but the green LED is flickering under there. So we've got some network stuff going on. And oh look, there's activity LED there as well on the other side of the RockPi. It seems to be blinking, like it's double blinking consistently. That does not look like a disk activity sort of thing. That's like a status thing, complaining. It's probably complaining that it can't boot or something. Oh yeah, and we've got some network activity over here. I don't know, maybe it is booting. Who knows? Well, hopefully we will know soon. Martin said, let's plug this in and see what happens. John's epitaph. That is exactly correct. What can go wrong? I figure that any time that I can let the smoke out, I need to have a camera running, because there are so many times that I've let the smoke out and I haven't had a camera running and then I've regretted it. Well, it worked last time, yeah. All right, I'm going to have a quick look at client devices, and I am so glad that that Unify put uptime back in here as a sortable column. That is, oh yeah, I think I can see it there on the device, on the network. All right, back to the Unify interface. So this is devices on the network, and look at this. There's a device here which does not have an IP assigned to it, and it is, but we can see its MAC address. That could be because I screwed up the network configuration. Yeah, Mitchell says 80% chance of no smoke when camera is running versus 30% chances of no smoke when no camera. That's right. It's yes. If you observe, the act of observing it changes it. So it's a bit of an insurance policy. Where are we? Oh yes, that's right. That's what I was saying. A while ago, Unify removed the uptime column. No, actually, I don't think they removed it. They still had an uptime column in here. It was when they went to, they did a major release. It was like when they went from version, the 6 series to the first of the version 7 controller. And you could no longer sort by uptime. And when you've got a lot of devices and you want to find the one that you've just plugged in, being able to sort by uptime is so useful. So this thing, it's been up for 2 minutes. That is almost certainly this RockPi S. The next newest device is 1 hour 50. I don't know. What I'm going to do, just in case there is something screwy happening with the board, I'm going to bypass the board, and so I'll unplug that. I'm going to unplug this from here and plug this straight into the RockPi S. So we're still getting power from the DC jack plugged in here, so we still have power going to it. But now we've removed anything on the carrier that might be screwing this up and preventing Ethernet. We still have a device with no IP. Right. Buffer? I don't know. I haven't seen any warnings on YouTube about... Oh no, video stopped. Is audio still going? I hope audio is still going. Tozy says, I'll leave the room for 2 minutes and John gave himself a wedgie. Okay, so lots of people buffering. You're back for me now. Hooray! Hooray! We are back. Now hopefully that was a very short buffer, and the buffer in the ATEM was good enough to keep up with it. So we didn't really lose anything too much. Squirrel, 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 squirrel multimeter. Okay, now, oh, just because it's right here and it's kind of interesting. This is my lab notebook from when I was first working. So before I actually designed this, this is the outcome. These are the notes that I wrote to myself as I was imagining the design in my head. And when was that? So 10th of the 9th, 2021. So about a year and a half ago, give or take. And then I, rock pi S upside down, and I was figuring out the direction the patch cable could go. Above, below, below. Yeah. And that's what became that. Okay. Where are we at? Where are we? Tassie Bob, coming back to that comment from earlier, Tassie Bob said, I'll leave the room for 2 minutes and John gave himself a wedgie. Then don't leave the room. That is the lesson you should be learning from this. When I'm streaming, do not leave the room. Just stick around and then we'll be okay. Where am I at? Okay, so where I'm at, the thing is that I have no idea what state this is in. As I said before, I think it's running Ubuntu. The fact that I can't actually see what's going on is a problem. It's ended up in some state. So what I would need to do is use a serial console. These Rock Pi S's, you can connect say a USB to serial converter onto some pins on this, and then when it boots you can get a serial console, comes up like a TTY sort of thing, and then you can get in just as you do on a Linux system without a GUI. But that is going to take a bit of stuffing around, so instead let me well, I don't know what's on this one either. Just for the fun of it, let's power this up. Before we do anything else, I'm going to... Alright, let's just be brutal. I'm just going to turn off the power. Nothing else I can do. Can't do a clean shutdown. So I'm just going to shove this out of the way. This other random one, I don't know if it's got anything on the eMMC memory. So let's just plug it in. Boop. Oh, now how are we going to get power to it? I did not think that through. Maybe, what do these allow? I think I can apply power directly with this, but I don't know. I think that, yeah, I'd have to look up the documentation. So the simplest solution, let's just plug it into this carrier board because I've already got the power supply and everything set up there. I can get back to that other stuff some other time. All right, take this out. Come on. And plug this in. Where does it go? Goes there? No, goes there. Yes. All right. this may or may not have anything in eMMC. And I think the way it works, in fact, I have a vague recollection that there is a way you can recover these. It's got a couple of buttons on here, just behind the SD card. And I'm pretty sure that if you hold one of these down during boot up, it will ignore the onboard flash and it will use the SD card instead. So they are recoverable. But for now, let's just power this one up and see what happens. And go. We'll let that one boot up for a little bit. Do we have activity? Yeah, we've got an LED there. It's just a solid green, which probably indicates there's nothing much happening. And we've got no network come up, although it does take a little bit to boot if it does have Debian installed in it. I'm going to, let's do this. I'm going to turn the power off and I'm going to take the SD card out of this one. This is really just plug it in and see what happens. I've got no rhyme or reason or plan for this. Oh, come on, why can't I get that in? It's because I'm uncoordinated. And turn it back on again. So if there is anything useful on this SD card, maybe now it will boot from that. Do we have activity? Oh yes, now we have activity. See, it's doing that blue flashy thing. So I think that means that it is in the process of booting, and we now have network here. So I think this particular one does not have an OS on its onboard flash memory, but there is probably something on this SD card that'll allow it to boot. So maybe what we should do is just grab like a factory image. AB asked, how is the Wi-Fi connected to the Rock Pi? It wasn't actually connected via Wi-Fi, it was connected via the wired Ethernet in that case, with that test that we were just doing right there. Oh, people are talking about pizza now. Peter called out 44 minutes. Mitchell says, go have a pizza or something, there's still 44 minutes left. Damn, now I want pizza. Yes, right, make some pizza dough. Okay, sudo make me a pizza. I'm just back in the Unify interface. I don't see any new device that has come up. It'll be on a different MAC address, of course. It takes a little while. Sometimes it takes quite a while for the Unify controller to update its interface. Mitchell says, Peter Lawler, yeah, do you ship? Yeah, what's the delivery zone for your pizza shop, Peter? I'll place an order. Anyway, back to this. What you can see here, it's still showing 11 minutes 19 seconds. This one counting up is with this MAC address. That is the device that is no longer plugged in and powered up, and it's showing the counter going up, the uptime going up. So the Unify controller interface must be working it on the basis of when it first saw it, and it's counting up, and at some point this device is going to disappear. But for now it's still counting, even though that device that it's reporting is this one. It's not plugged in, there's no power. It's not doing a thing. It cannot possibly be still online. And we haven't seen the new device come up either. So that's kind of annoying. Alright, let's do a little bit Rock Pi S, wiki. Let's find ourselves an image. Installation, install a micro SD card. Yes, that is what we want. Let's do this, fellow travelers. So we need a micro SD card, larger than 8 GB, micro SD card reader, yeah, that'll do. Download the tools and images. What have we got here? Oh, that's old. If whichever way around you read this date, if that is 19th of the 6th, 2020, or is it 20th of the 6th, 2019. If that's still an old image, unzipped image is like below. Maybe that's just because I haven't updated the documentation. It's probable that there is a newer image. All right, official images, RockPi, official images, third-party images. Ooh, wonder if there's a, oh look, there is an OpenWRT image. This might make some people very happy, but just for now, I am not going to go for the OpenWRT image. But at least that would be a good way for us to do some quick testing. What I want to do, Ubuntu Bionic. I'm kind of tempted to go for Ubuntu Bionic 2004, which I think, oh hang on, why does it say Ubuntu Focal over here, 2004, and over here it says Ubuntu Bionic? Someone has screwed this up. It doesn't really matter. I think I will grab Ubuntu Bionic and, oh come on, the XML file does not have any style information attached to it. Alright, maybe we'll try Debian. What happens if I click on that one? Do I get a download? Yes, I've got a download image that has started, and now I'm probably killing my own bandwidth. Why am I... oh, AB says it can... This is referring to my question of why are we showing that this device is online? And AB pointed out it can be online if the RockPi has duplicate MAC addresses. That is correct. Where does the RockPi get its MAC address? And it should be set in hardware, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's getting it off the SD card, which would be really kind of annoying, but it's possible, I suppose. What have we got? Okay, so we've got a show in Finder. Okay, that's probably a good thing that that didn't open on a screen that you can see, because it's my downloads folder. What am I looking for? Dropbox, projects, no, Superhouse, projects, IoT AP, software. I am going to, no, it's a big image. I'm not going to put it there. I'm just going to leave it. Where am I going to put it? I don't know. Okay, I'll just leave it in the downloads folder for now. This is only a quick test anyway. So now back to installing on the micro SD card. Etcher. Yes, I'm pretty sure I have Etcher. So do I need to unzip the image first, or can Etcher read a zipped image? By executing on Ubuntu, let's see if I have Etcher installed. Ballerina Etcher, I do. I'm pretty sure Ballerina Etcher is the same thing. Opening. Is Ballerina Etcher going to open? Where is it? I just tried to launch it. Maybe it's one of those weird macOS things where it's going to complain. Oh, no, it's just taking a while to launch. Alright, so what you can see on the screen there is the web page tutorial of how to do it. What you can see me dragging over here is the actual Ballerina Etcher. So, flash from file. Let's see if it can handle, where are we? Downloads. Where was it? What was the download called? Oh, RockPi S. It was RockPi, that one. Okay, select a target. I need a an SD card, and Lachlan bought a bunch of SD cards recently. Did a group purchase and very kindly got me a bunch of SD cards. So I have some spares here. After I was complaining, I think it was a couple of months ago now, complaining about having run out of SD cards, and I even had, I can't remember who, but someone in the chat ended up doing a super chat or whatever, a contribution to buying some SD cards. So I did that. well, Lachlan made the actual purchase, but he arranged the group purchase. So now I have SD cards. SD card, and I've got an adapter. Plug it in. See if we get a target. Ah, come on. All right. Not now. I do not want to add that. Select target. That one. Locked? Why is it locked? Hang on. Was the little thing on the side of the thing pushed along? Let's try that again. The adapter has the little locked switch on the side. It might have got pushed along as I was sticking it in. There we go. Back up. No, I do not want to back up. Generic mass storage, 62.5 gigabytes. That is the one that I want to do. And select, and does it give us any config options? Yeah. Flash. All right. We'll let it do its thing. Ah, needs your password. All right. There you go. Do your thing. Decompressing. Okay, so it's taking care of the zip thing by itself. Well, that is writing remarkably quickly. I'm surprised. All right, now back to the chat while that does its thing. Did I miss the start? Peter says, just use DD like a real nerd. Yeah. No, I already had Ballerina Etcher installed. It's point and click, so. Flash another. No, I do not want to. Now, what I don't know is what's going to happen when this gets booted. So select drive, done, all of that. Successfully installed. Okay, installed, but is it just going to come up on the network? Is it going to have a default user that we can SSH in as? Please tell me more info. Getting started. All right. Oh, connected RockPi via SSH. All right. So it looks like, oh, here we've got the TTL. Yeah, USB to TTL serial cable option. That's all that stuff I was talking about before. But if we just plug it in, ping rockpis.local. All right. So it should come up as yeah, with 0conf or bonjour or whatever, rockpis.local, and we should also see it coming up. So I'm going to pull the power. Power is off. Chuck that out. Oh, this micro SD card, the slot is slightly dodgy. And I'm going to instead put in the one that we just flashed. I'm surprised at how quickly that flashed. Maybe these are fast SD cards. And power it up. All right, starting up. Should get some action happening on there. Oh yeah, you can already see that the, well, yeah, see the connection LED here, and we've got activity on Ethernet. So it looks like it is booting up at least. Yeah. Oh, AB said, whoa, what kind of card and reader is that? Proper speed. Yeah, it's a no-name brand. This is another one of them. Oh, I was already there. Yeah, so it's a micro SD XE1 class 10 card. But yeah, you're right. That was some pretty serious speed. So 100 megabytes a second it claims. Anyway, that's what it is. I got a little stack of them now. Yeah, sync will take. Oh, Alistair, hey, welcome. It's good to see you here in the chat. Now, where am I? Okay, back to here, and by here I mean here. So we now have a new device that has been up for 28 seconds. doesn't have an IP assigned, at least not that it's reporting in here. So let's go back to, let's go to here. It probably hasn't ping, was it rockpies.local? rockpies.local. Yeah, it's not going to resolve. Annoying. So what is going on with these not getting an IP address? Do I just need to wait a while? I don't know. I don't know. Hang on. Mute. Bad cough. Okay. I'm waiting for him to stand up. What? Alistair said, is this one of the swathes of RK3588 machines that's hitting the market? Oh yeah, reload the page. I probably should do that. I don't remember what processor is on the on the Rock Pi S. It's been out for a few years. Like these ones that I've got, I bought at least a year and a half ago. Main hardware. Let's have a look. What is it? What's it got? It's an RK3308. So an older SoC. My guess is that the RK3588 that you're talking about is a newer SoC. So maybe there's a newer Rock Pi S by now. A Rock Pi 2. I don't know. This is what I've got. Oh, hang on. I've got to mute again because I got to cough and then have a drink. I really got to do something about my throat. Maybe. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Yeah, default password probably. I think I'm going to have to attach a serial console to this to see what's going on. Cheetah Kid said, I think I have the same RK3588 on my Firefly, that old. Yeah, these are not super new boards. Rock Pi S. But they are available, they're available in quantity, and they're super cheap. So, if it does what we need, maybe this is the solution. Excuse me. So, I'm kind of idling here because I don't want to have to go to the trouble of connecting the serial console, but maybe that is just where we have to go from here. Getting started with a Rock Pi SSH. Close look, front view, angle view, back view. Thank you for those notes, Raja. Now, starting board, prepare the image, do that, blah, blah, blah. We've written that. We've gone through that. Boot it. Green power LED is on, and after a while the blue LED will start blinking. We've seen that. Optional, use a USB to TTL serial cable to make a connection between your PC and the Rock Pi S. Okay. It enables AD-BD services, which is a debug bridge from Android now ported on Linux. With one USB A to C cable, you can power and access the board. Very handy. Okay, so I need ADB tool, which I have used in the past, but I don't have a Linux box right here conveniently to do that on. SSH. Alright, so it's enabled on port 22. Use Angry IP, don't need that. To access Rock Pi S, try that. Or if your router network doesn't support local domain, you need to check your network router administrator page and look for the Rock Pi S IP address. So the issue we seem to have is that this is not coming up on the network. It's now been up for going on 6 minutes. It hasn't been assigned an IP. There is something weird going on with its networking. And I think the solution is going to be, oh, check Wi-Fi connection. Does it come up with Wi-Fi? No. You got to turn it on. Switch to blah, turn Wi-Fi on. Okay, so it doesn't come up as an AP or anything out of the box. Buttons has a reset key and a mask ROM key. Okay, so reset key, press and release to reset, and mask ROM. Okay, this is what I was talking about before. So the mask ROM key, RockPi S supports boot on SD NAND flash. By default, SD NAND starts before the trans flash card. Press the mask ROM key to ignore the SD NAND flash when RockPi S is powered on. So that forces it to boot from the SD card. But I'm pretty sure this one is already booting from the SD card. Now, although, okay, this is one thing this is a very easy thing for us to test. So let's do this before going to the trouble of putting a serial console on this. Shooter Kid says, I have to go, my leg playing up. Bye all. That sucks. Sorry to hear that. I hope I hope you're feeling better soon. But thanks for coming along, Cheetah Kid. So what I'm going to do is I am going to power down. No, actually, before I do, I'm going to do one more test over here that you can't see, but nothing's going to happen. No, I was just seeing if it'd come up on dynamic DNS, but it hasn't. So what I'm going to do is pull this and turn off power and do one more switcheroonie. So this is the SD card that is the well, the other thing is we could just try a different image. It could be that the Debian image doesn't come up with SSH by default, so maybe I should see if I can find that Ubuntu image. But first, what I'm going to do is take this out. So this, I've got to keep them in order. This is the one that was in the carrier board when I pulled it out of the box. So this is the one that I'd been playing around with sometime in the past. This one was in a, pulled it out of the container, but the container had been opened. I had been using this one previously as well, so who knows what is on that. So let's do this. We're going to go for a brand new RockPi S that has never been opened. Junk. Oh, it obviously has been opened. So boots from MMC, but it's full, fixed to boot from SD card. Interesting. So I must have peeled that sticker off. That's a good thing that I did not rely on memory. So the MMC is full on this one, and okay, let's just leave that aside for now. We won't open that can of worms. Let's see, has this one been opened? I can see the sticker on this has been damaged a bit. Sticker on this is undamaged. I think this is a brand new, totally unused RockPi S. Okay, let's try this one. Out of the box, shouldn't have anything in it. SD card in. Oh, hang on. How did I do that? I managed to bend some pins while I was messing around with it. Got to get the hemostat and get this. It's quite likely that these were used in surgery at some point. Former surgical tools. Back when, I don't know whether this is actually the case. I was going to say back when surgical tools were reused. But I think surgical tools are still commonly reused today as well. They get sterilized and then used on another procedure. But with it's amazing these days how much stuff just gets disposed of. Like a tool like this might be used in surgery and then just thrown away at the end. Gotta get this lined up that way there, and that, and we'll power it up. Same old, same old. Third attempt at the same thing. It's like Oh, that didn't work. Let's do it again. Oh, that didn't work. Let's do it again. So now we're on the third attempt. So we've got some network activity showing there. Yeah, it's behaving, from a visual point of view, it's behaving exactly like the previous two attempts. And okay, so Sion said, why are we back playing with the old version of the Wi-Fi access point? What did I miss? All this is about is checking the throughput on the RockPi, because I've got no idea what the Ethernet throughput is like on this, and I wanted to see if it was dramatically better than the WIZnet chip. And this just happened to be my old hardware from when I was playing around with it. So I'm just trying to get it up, running with a basic default image to play around with it. And look, we've got the device. It has just come up on the network. It's weird how it shows that particular date. Sort. So this is probably the RockPi S uptime, 37 seconds. FE 100 megabits per second. That's interesting. Although, yeah, these probably do only have 100 megabit per second Ethernet. Yeah, that's true. They probably don't have gigabit Ethernet. So we've got another device up here. Once again, no IP address assigned. Oh, Alistair said, I've got a few surgical bits and bobs for our tissue culture experiments. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, surgical tools can be really, really cool. So both of my grandfathers were surgeons, and I've ended up getting quite a few surgical tools from my mum's dad, so my grandfather on my mother's side. Yeah, so I've got hemostats and funny shaped tweezers and all sorts of things that came from him that at some point he would have actually used in surgery. We still don't have an IP. All right, let's go back to, so what I'm doing here is following the path of least resistance. I'm taking the lazy way out, and come on, where is the image? Downloads, okay. Because it is less effort for me to download a different image and try that than it is to connect a USB to serial converter. Third-party images, community images. Yeah, I'm kind of, DHCP server is activated on the E0 interface. That could be a problem if I just plug it into my normal network, because I do not want it to be a DHCP server, I want it to be a DHCP client. So setting that up and doing some experiments with it is going to probably involve not having it plugged into anything, like into my main network. Just plug another device into it like a laptop, and then have this issue an IP to the laptop and then SSH in and mess around from there. So that is definitely something that I want to experiment with. Now that OpenWRT has been mentioned to me so many times, it's tipped me over the edge of wanting to do it. And also because of what Austin said about having the management interface for OpenWRT. If we can get personal pre-shade keys running on that, that could be the solution. And also that would open up, so if we can run, for example, OpenWRT on our own hardware, and OpenWRT runs on access points, let's just OpenWRT, I'm just going to do a search for this. Turn your OpenWRT router into an access point. What hardware, how to create an access point in OpenWRT, recommended best Wi-Fi access point, and this is 2 years old, but still, let's just have a quick look. What is the best wireless access point compatible with OpenWRT? Alright, for multi-bar, hang on, pro tip, avoid blah and blah, only good Qualcomm Atheron, blah, okay. Now this is this is the sort of link that normally you would not click on, because you would think, that's going to take me somewhere bad. But that actually seems to be going to the wiki. Is there anything there? Is there anything there? Yeah, LSA pointed out a lot of distros let you set an initial network config by dropping a file on the SD card. That's true. Relaunch to update Chrome, John. Stephen says, yes, my Chrome is out of date. RPS, that's a cool username considering the what subject that we're talking about. RPS, is it a static IP address? Don't think so. I think, well, the setup instructions said that it should have a, yeah, as usual I'm following several different trains of thought at the same time. It should come up as a DHCP client. However, that, I don't know if that is applicable to all of these. So I think Debian Buster, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. It could well be that each of these distros or these images behaves differently. It's going to depend on how they've been configured. So in the case of OpenWRT, for example, it comes up as a DHCP server, not as a client. But I think what it's describing is meant to be the default behavior for Debian, and probably for Ubuntu as well. It's just that Debian does not seem to be coming up as, still no IP, as a DHCP client. Alright, give up on that. Alright, I'm going to stop chasing that little side thing. OpenWRT, it's been highlighted now. It's on the let's investigate this as an option list. But for now, let's see if we can get to, what have we got? So GitHub, this is a broken image, a broken link at the moment. But I want to see, so copy, I'm going to do open link in new tab. And it's going to, oh, hang on, it started working. Ubuntu. Is that the one that I just downloaded? I can't actually even remember. Did I just install Ubuntu or did I install Debian? I have no... My downloads folder should tell the story. It was Debian. Okay. And now we're downloading Ubuntu. Well then, let's give this a shot. I'm going to power this off, because at least this is a minimal effort thing. Come on, get out of there. I'm going to come back to this, plug that in, and launch Etcher, just to annoy Peter, when I should be using DD, flash from file, and it's going to be, what is it called in the download folder? It's another RockPy S, and this time we want the Debian image we used, or is it the other way around? What did I just say? I actually, no, 1148. We want the Ubuntu image because Debian is the one that we did just put on. Yes, that's right. We want Ubuntu focal this time. And we'll stick it on to the 60-something gig thing and right. Privileges again, okay. Sudo make me a sandwich. No, sudo make me a pizza. Flashing. Okay, drink time again. Validating. Okay, almost done, and we're done. And eject. Here we go. Back to here. Stick in the image. Turn on the power. Let it do its thing. Oh, Simon said change network cable. I always have trouble with those cables. Oh, interesting idea. I wonder if it could be as fundamental as that sort of hardware problem. I've had other devices, that network cable that is sitting on my bench there, the grey one, I've had other devices plugged into this running on the bench like within the last few days, and it's been working fine. So 4 minutes ago, Debian Buster, I use PC engines. Oh, bit. Right. What am I doing? Oh, I'm getting errors on YouTube. Hopefully it's not buffering too much. Buffering more. Okay, can you hear me? I don't know if anyone can hear me. I am just going to assume that you can and keep right on going. Alright, now, what are we seeing in here? Are we seeing a new device on the network? Not yet. Oh, it'll be the same MAC address, of course. Buff, buff, buff. Yeah, it's buffering. It's buffering. Alright, so we now have... So I'm beginning to wonder if this is a problem with my network. It could be... Oh, Tassie. Yes, you left the room again. See it? The network, the NBN craps itself every time you leave the room. So hang around. And it's... Yeah, anyway. Once again, the device has not been issued an IP address. There is something odd going on here. I'm beginning to think that it may be my network that is crapping out and preventing this device from being issued an IP. But, okay, the next step beyond this, since this SSH method is not working, is to do the USB to serial converter approach. Coming back down to here, boot the board, serial console. Okay, serial console. So I need a USB to serial converter, and I guess it's at 5 volts. A USB to TTL, which suggests that it's 5 volts, not 3.3 volts. CP2102X, so baud rate limitations, okay. And let's see what we need. Don't connect the red wire. Alright, so we're not connecting power. We're connecting TX, RX, and ground. And that's it. We just need those three. Default setting for RockPyS. So it's 1.5 megabits a second on the serial console. Yada yada yada. Windows, yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's try. So, what I need is a USB to serial converter that is capable of doing 1.5 megabits per second with these with TX, RX, and ground. What have I got? What do I have? Do I have? I've got a variety of USB to serial converters. I'm just going over in my head which one. So this one is one that runs at 5 volts. I don't know if it'll do 1.5 megabits per second. It may. It may. So I need some jumpers that are going to be from... oh, power is going to be the next issue. If I unplug it from the carrier board, I'm going to need to get power onto it somehow, which could be powered via USB. And we are now at 2 hours. I'm thinking this might be something that I solve off camera, because it's just going to involve a bit of messing around, and internet seems really dodgy now, right towards the end. And I think I need a snack. So, I think that what I need to do is solve the problem of getting an OS onto one of these things and connecting to it so that you're not sitting around watching me look for things. Yes, as Stephen says, 1.5 meg board seems excessive for a serial console. It is. Our TTL adapter will give you power. That's true, but yeah, so maybe I should just do this now. It specifically says here, do not connect power. Don't connect the red wire. Maybe I can just power it via this. I don't want to do damage to the Rock Pi S. I think I can just shove 5 volts into it. Yeah, this is the thing. It's saying here, specifically, do not connect the red wire, which is VCC, to provide power to, hang on, you can't see it, here in the instructions. So we've got ground VCC, which is 5 volts, RX and TX, and here it's saying do not connect the red wire. So it's specifically saying do not provide power to the Rock Pi from the adapter. And I don't know why it's saying that, because you can power the Rock Pi from the pin header. If you supply, like if we get in here a bit closer, if we supply 5 volts onto one of these pins, I'm not sure which one, the Rock Pi powers up, which is exactly how I am powering it now on the carrier board. I don't see a problem with doing it that way. Alright, I'm inclined to just give this a go. Let's do it. Why not? What can go wrong? It's another opportunity to let smoke out, and that's always fun. Yes, as long as there's no power coming from anywhere else. Yes, as Alastair said, should be fine as long as there are no other power sources. Exactly. I don't see why that can be a problem. But they don't mention any other power sources on here. I assume that what they are expecting is that at this point you have the Rock Pi S powered via the USB cable. There's a USB-C connector on it, which you can use to power it. So let's try it with the connections like this and just see what happens. Before I turn off power to it, has it, let's just check. No, it has not been given an IP. So let's do the pull the power thing, take that out. Come on. Take it off here. I'm going to use this one separated from the carrier board. There we go. So we've got the OS image in here. We're going to plug in Ethernet. But before I do, we need jumpers to go from the USB to serial converter to the target board. What have I got here? Jumpers. Got a white one. I've got a little container of jumpers here. It's not a very good container. Doesn't have a great selection. What have I got? Oh, there's another white one. I'm looking for, oh yeah, there's an orange one. At some point I've soldered onto that, so hopefully there's not too much solder on it. There's a purple one. So I think we're okay. If I had one that was a different color to white, that would be nice, but it's not essential. So, chuck that out of the way. And then what have we got? I'll use the orange one for power. Now, which one is the red? 3.3 volts or is that 5 volts? Let's find out on the Rock Pi pinout. Where is the... Hardware. Hardware? Yes. Pinout. Pinout, pinout, pinout. I don't know what version of the hardware I've got here. V13? I don't know. Display GPIO. Okay. Where is pin 2? What is pin 2? Okay. Header 1, header 2. The way this is laid out is really confusing. All right. Okay, there we go. That's not confusing at all. This is much better. So this is like a visual representation. So 5 volts can go in on pin 2 or pin 4. Then we've got ground. And then we've got TX and RX. That is nice. Okay, so that makes it all very clear. So what we'll do is we'll stick 5 volts into pin 4. I'll use purple as the ground connection. Oops, you need that view. So we've got 5 volts goes in there, ground there, then we've got a TX and RX, and because TX and RX are interchangeable, as everybody knows, we're going to use white jumpers for both TX and RX because it makes no difference which one you plug in. What have we got here? Connections. We've got ground there, we've got V out there, so ground and V out goes there, and I will actually pay. I've been making these facetious jokes about yeah, where am I? There. I've been making these facetious jokes about TX and RX being interchangeable. So we've got the next pin down is TX, which means this one is TX. This one here is TX, which will go into RX on this, which is that one there, and then there. Because no matter what you do, any time that you plug TX and RX together, like this, it'll be wrong. So they're interchangeable. Now I need a USB cable, an old style micro USB, which is actually, I've got all these USB-C cables, so come on, I just need an old style USB. Is that one? Yes, that's one. Old style USB. And let's see if we get any. Now I need a connection to my computer. Lots of messing around with this. All right, here we go. Connection to my computer. Plug it in. Ka-chunk. We've got power on the converter. We've got power on this. At least we've got a green LED. We don't. Oh yeah, now we've got the blue LED flashing, so we have activity. This is coming to life. Now let's get a serial console up. New version of CoolTerm. Ooh, CoolTerm has gone for a 2.0 release. No, I do not want to do that right now. Let's not right at this moment. Let's come back to here. And what have we got? Options. What port do we want? 14101, that'll be it. Can we do 1.5 megabits per second? I don't even know if we can. 1500000. All the zeros. I got no idea what settings on there. Terminal, blah, raw mode, yeah, whatever. Connect. Is it going to work? Ooh, we got something. Alright. Is that a baud rate issue? I suspect it is. Did I even put enough zeros into that? Let's just randomly try a different baud rate. Which is guaranteed to not work. Disconnect, connect. Disconnect. It is possible that this USB to serial converter is just not supporting 1.5 megabits per second. So, did I even put enough zeros into there? Yeah, yes I did. Okay. So, fun and randomness. Yeah, Alistair said it should be relatively straightforward to create a polarity agnostic TTL port in hardware. It should be, that's true. USB to serial converters could actually support auto discovery of the polarity in theory. All right. Peter says, come on, Smoke, I believe in you. Yeah. Well, we've got activity. Whatever is going on here, there is activity, but we do not, oh, well, I don't even have Ethernet plugged in right now, but we did not have Ethernet. So, the next thing I am going to try, I am really interested in the whole OpenWRT approach to this now, but we're now into the time where my stomach is saying, if you don't eat right now, you are going to die. So I've got to do something about that. And I'm going to go really soon. Where are we? Where are we at? Where are we at? Wrapping up. Feels like we haven't achieved anything today, but it's also felt kind of interesting in a strange way. Okay, next steps. I can pursue getting access to a console on this Ubuntu or Debian image. That's probably worth investigating. I think what I'll do is, not on a live stream, I'm just going to grab a different USB to serial converter, plug that in, and see if I get a... I am so tempted to just go and do it right now, like to keep working on this. The reason I'm looking around is I'm thinking about where a different USB to serial converter would be. The converter that I have just been using, this one right here, is based on an 80 mega 16U2. This is the USB to serial converter circuit that's used on the Arduino Uno, and it's being done in firmware. It's not a dedicated USB to serial converter chip. So I don't think this even supports 1.5 megabits per second, which is why we're getting this happening with all the garbage on the screen. So what I need is a different type of USB to serial converter, still 5 volts, but that, Jacksec said baud does not equal bits per second. Yes, true. Oh, what? Alistair said, I managed to get H2O2 burns on my hand during this chat, so that's something. Is this one of those things where you wished you'd had a camera running as you let the smoke out of your hand? Peter asked, what's for lunch, Superhouse? I do not have lunch organised, but what I'm pondering is where, oh where, I would have a different USB to serial converter. I think I see a box. I think I do. Can you see it? It is just, no, it's just out of camera view, just down there. See that box there? That's got reels in it. Down below there is a box that says USB to serial. I'm going to give this a shot. It's one of those things where if I can find a converter, I've got everything set up there on the bench. It really should only be a couple of minutes to do this test, to pull out a different converter and see what goodness we can find, what is in the big tubbo converters. Well, not that it's all converters, it's things like panel mount USB cables to flying leads and right angle USB adapters and long USB A to B type whatever things. It's all the random USB stuff is in this big box. So what can I find? Is there a suitable USB to serial converter in here hiding down the bottom somewhere around? I do have some like old CP2102 type converters, which are really, really crappy, but may do the job. Ooh, ooh, this is interesting. Here is an old SparkFun FTDI converter. What voltage is this? That's a 5 volt. I may have just struck it lucky. That converter would have to be 10 years old, because I would have got that from, in fact, Nathan would have sent that to me when I was writing Practical Arduino, which was 13 years ago. So what do we have? What do we have? Okay, back to overhead view. We have the USB to serial converter here. Powering it, this is the old SparkFun FTDI based USB to serial converter. It's the 5 volt version. So it should just be a matter of take those out of there, plug them into there, and it's a different USB cable. So I need I need this one. This old school USB cable. Badoink, badoink. And I'm going to unplug from the other end so it's powered down. Now, it should be a direct conversion, so it's that one is ground, and then I skip one. I'm just going to hold these all together and try to plug them into this together so that they keep their alignment. That's it. And now, actually what I should do is back up on my console up here. I'm going to go, oh, it's already disconnected. Okay, so in options, port, the port doesn't exist anymore, pretty much as expected. So I'm going to plug in power. Well, when I say power, I mean plug in the USB cable. All right, USB cable. What happened then? I don't see any power LED on there. Oh, I do have power on there though. Okay, this is a good sign so far. Let's go back to here and rescan your serial ports. Do we now have it? We do. So that, let's go to 1.5 megabits per second and OK and connect. And what do we have? Do we get garbage? I'm just going to do clear. And what is happening? So we've got some, do we have activity? We're not seeing anything on this. It's possible that this does not support 1.5 megabits per second. Yeah, we're not getting any activity on the serial connection. I'm going to hit the reset button. Which one is reset? Don't know. That one or that one? Don't know. Just hit them both. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. We are getting serial console. Ho ho ho, nice. RockPiS login. Yes. So scrolling back just to see what is going on here. Oh, we don't have enough scroll back to see everything, but that is actually kind of cool. Yes, FTDI for the win. You're right, Dodgy. So now I'm going to plug in, I'm just going to plug in Ethernet to have it, just, don't know, because I can. And now, what are we going to log in? What is the login? So it's Ubuntu RockPiS. Can anyone else, has anyone looked up the root? Yes, okay. Normally Ubuntu does not have like an accessible root. RockPiS. I'm just totally guessing here. I just put in RockPiS as the password. No. All right. Let's come back to here and look at it. Hardware getting started. What is it telling us to do? Serial console. Back to here. Okay. And then having connected. Okay. Yeah. That's just connection. So cannot be used to input text. No. Yeah. What's the username and password? Who knows? Rock Pi, does it tell us here? Rock, so maybe Rock is the username. What is the password? Let's try... let's try Rock and Rock. Oh, it worked. Rock as the username and the password just worked. No, Peter, lunchtime is not the password. Right. Now just if config, what have we got? We've got an IP. Maybe networking was coming up all along. All right, I'm gonna let's do this. SSH rock at that, and yes, and rock as the password. And as they say in all the hacker movies, we're in. We have networking. We are now SSH'd into it. And out of curiosity, I'm going to come back here to the Unify network interface. This is the device. Still no IP address reported in the Unify interface. What the hell, Unify? You gave it the IP address. How can you not know what it is? And if you know what it is, why aren't you telling us? All right. All right. Let's ignore that little frustration for now. So we now have a console on it. And as it turns out, the serial console, we only needed to find out what the IP was so that we could then get in. It's probably worth keeping the serial console connected just as a backup plan in case networking goes down while messing around with it. Yes, it really is lunchtime. Oh, okay. Graham said, "Oh, hi, it was nice to see you on Mastodon now." Yes, I will mention that. If anybody wants to connect on Mastodon. So, I know this is like a major jump off topic, but let's... Yes, Graham, am I following you? Yes, Graham, I am following you on Mastodon. So if anybody wants to connect with me on Mastodon, I am at johnoxa@mastodon.local. Is there an easy way? Yeah, here. I'm mastodon.social. Sorry, not .local. I'm thinking of .local because we're screwing around with this networking stuff. Yeah. If anybody wants to find me on Mastodon, that is my username. In fact, I'm going to drop this into the chat. Graham said, I have ADHD, major jumps off topic are my thing. And Dodgy says, half the people in chat are ADHD. Yes, that's true. Yes, that is a thing here. This is a neurodiverse space. View, actual size. Okay, now that we have followed that little rabbit down its rabbit hole, backing back out. Okay, so, well, this kind of makes me happy. We can end the stream in a better place than before. It does really annoy me that this Unify interface did not show the IP address for this machine that is up and running. So this MAC address, Where are we? Ends in D0A1. If I go back to the thing here, it's probably on screen somewhere there. Where are we? Mac. That's there we go. This MAC address here. So this is the MAC address of the Ethernet interface, and it's been given this IP address via DHCP, but Unify is not reporting that IP address in here, despite the fact that it was the one that issued the IP address. You can do better, Unify. That's kind of annoying. Alright, so now we have, and OCD, and some of us are combos of the above. Some are ASD, yep. So Dodgy said, and OCD, some of us are combos of the above. So one thing that I came across, I don't know, a while ago, was the whole idea of OCD. I probably mentioned this in the past. OCD being comorbid with ADHD, because OCD behaviors can be a coping mechanism for ADHD. So if you have ADHD or ADD, whatever, attributes, which can include things like losing stuff all the time, then developing systems to keep track of things, like always putting things in the same place and being consistent about stuff and organizing things in a very OCD way, becomes a coping mechanism for those ADHD attributes. So it can be that the OCD behavior is either an independent thing, or it can be a consequence or a coping thing to make your life easier when you're dealing with ADHD. Jacksec said, oh, this is a very good point. Are you sure it's not a fluke static address? Martin Visser asked, was it on the next page? No, because I have sorted this by uptime, and this device at the top of the list is the one that has the shortest uptime. It's the one that we've plugged in, and it's just been running for 8.5 minutes now. Now, the Jackstech's comment about it being a fluke static address is a very good question. So, network interfaces, if up the WPA supplicant, what have we got? That's the config for it. Let's do cat etc. WPA supplicant if up down.sh. Nope. Where is it? Where is this config that I'm looking for? How am I going to find it? And fork the forks. Doshi said, I'm not OCD, I just like all the spoons in the drawer to be spooning each other. It's a friendly thing, not OCD really. Yeah. Small forks go down, big forks go up. I'm having a brain fart moment here. Where do I find WPA CLI? How do I find the config for the... No, this is what am I doing? That WPA is the is not the right thing to be looking at here. Okay, it is eth0 ifconfig eth0. What do we have? Yeah, the question is, where is this config coming from? Cat etc. network interfaces. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, but it doesn't exist. Net plan is ifconfig. Right, so if I do cat etc. Ah, come on, I can type network. What's in networks? Oh, it's just the link local config. So network, and in this directory we've got if down, if post down, if pre-up, and if up. And in if up.d we have the WPA supplicant and nothing else. If pre-up we have WPA supplicant and nothing else. So I don't see a config for a static network interface. Oh yeah, Tony Smith. Oh, thank you for pointing out the obvious answer. It's come on, I gotta get focus. Cat, etc. DHCP. Oh, yeah, it's not DHCP.conf. DHCPD.conf is the daemon, which is for the for running a DHCP server. So what we want is dhclient.conf. What do we have? Option, blah, request, etc. Do we have any interfaces defined in here? We have a lease, ETH0, it's all commented out. Fixed address. I am not seeing any config. PS fax, and check if it's systemd doing it. PS fax. Do we have systemd? Systemd. Grep systemd. Where is the systemd config for the network interface? Can buffering? No. Okay, can someone be my outbrain to save me looking this up? How do I use systemd to check the it's network manager. Okay, nm. nm. What have we got? Network manager. No daemon. All right, so on network manager, how do I check the config? Network manager. Network manager. The interface? You must be root. Of course I do. Sudo make me a sandwich. Rock. That doesn't do anything. Version print print config. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's do this. Print config. What have we got? Connection. DNS systemd resolve. Managed false key file. Blah. Logging device. Wi-Fi scan. Wi-Fi cloned MAC address, preserve. This is not really telling me anything useful. They use NetPlan for Ubuntu, don't they? Stephen W says. Peter is calling 30 minutes. Yeah, I am at 2.5 hours now. How the hell do you put up with 2.5 hours of me talking about random stuff? I don't get it. I do not get it. Anyway. Is etc. NetPlan? Okay, etc. NetPlan. There's no NetPlan. There's only network and networks. Anyway, what we're getting here. What disk image? LSB. No. Uname -A. What have we got? Rockchip, Preempt, Arch, GNU Linux. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to stop chasing this particular rabbit because I don't think there's a whole lot of point to it. Oh, NetPlan. Yeah, there is plan. Stopping here. I'm going to stop here. I could keep going on this for hours, but I won't. Because I'm working is frustrating in so many different ways. That is right. Bradshaw hitting an extremely old version of Ubuntu with a lead pipe and releasing it. Yeah, Brett says it had Network Manager in the PS output. And if we go, I'm getting sucked back into doing this again. And I did a thing here, Network Manager config. Yeah, Network Manager is running. And this is the config that Network Manager is reporting. And there is nothing really useful in here that I can see. Yeah. Oh, Johan suggested it's Etsy dhcpcd.conf. Yeah, we've already looked at that. It doesn't actually exist. There is no DHCP daemon on this. There's only a DHCP client. Perhaps. All right. I could spin my wheels on this for ages. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? All right. So we now at least have a console on the machine, which means that I can probably do the setup. Like I can. All right, where does this leave us? The whole point of this, looking at the big picture again, is to see whether this hardware gets better throughput than I was getting with the WizNet chip on the Pi 02, which was in the order of, I can't remember, but it was like 3 to 5 megabits per second, somewhere around that range. And the next thing I need to do is set up an access point on this Rock Pi S, and so that I can connect a device to it and run it as the gateway, same as I was doing before on the Pi, and see what throughput I get, do a speed test through it. And if it turns out that this is doing decent speed, then maybe something like a rock chip based system is the way to go. Now, at least one of those CM4 compatible boards that we were looking at a few weeks ago, I'm pretty sure was a rock chip based thing. And I'm going to go back to Raj's wiki, and let's see, where is it? Pi N. I'm just looking for whether they've got, I'm pretty sure that there was a CM4 compatible device. I'm just scrolling through their wiki right now, which you can't see, but nah, I don't see it. Let's go to buy, distributor, AllNet. No. Anyway, I'm going to stop chasing that squirrel. I've got to stop. Oh, can you renew the DHCP lease? Oh, JacksTech said Etsy dhcpcd.conf is the client daemon. Is it? You're probably right. I am probably wrong, which is usually the case. So, but if I do cat Etsy DHCP, there is no DHCP CD. It's just, it's not there. It's only Etsy DHCP, and then inside that is dhclient.conf, and that the lease on ETH0 is commented out. There, yeah, it's like an example config with nothing actually active. Send hostname, get host by name. We've got, what have we got? Request. Domain search, yeah. So, Stephen W says, Peter's launch control daemon has crashed. Oh, Andrew, that's interesting. Andrew says, I have Pi 4, 8 gig by 2, 4 gig by 4 available. Interesting. I have a, well, let's just try DH client. DH client. Oh. What commands can I use on this? DH client. Address. Dad wait time. There is a client. I mean, there is a command for DH client called dad wait time. Server address, config file, lease, script. Yeah, so I can't just call it and get a status or something, it looks like. What happens if I just do DH client ETH0? Operation not permitted. Studio make me a sandwich. And no, okay. I'm just grasping at straws there. I seriously, I am going to stop. I need to stop this stream and get something to eat. It's going to become a problem if I don't. Now, I need to set this up to be an access point and test throughput, and that's all I can think of for now. My brain is fading. My brain is fading. So let's wrap it up. We can resume some other time. Thank you very much for coming along. I am going to go before my brain totally fails and I make even less sense than I have been already. So I hope you all are having a good weekend and have a great week this coming week. I will talk to you all soon. Bye.